if you haven't been following along the Starbucks drama over the past couple of years, Starbucks is kind of at war with its employees. There's been a number of stores that have unionized over the past couple of years. Starbucks has shut down some of those stores in retaliation, and now you're starting to see social media posts of disgruntled Starbucks partners proclaiming their frustration with the company, and they're doing it in a very public display. So apparently the downtown Disney, the Starbucks there in downtown Disney, it looks like based on this video, it's a reserve location. They staged a walkout because they don't think they're getting paid fair enough. So I'm going to play this for you, and then we can dive in a little bit deeper.
This is a message for Starbucks CEO Brian Niccol. We, your green apron partners, are the face of the Starbucks experience, and we are the key to any potential of the turnaround effort in the company.
Okay, just quick pause. These people don't realize that they're replaceable. Like at any given point in any given day, like they're not exceptional, right? Like these guys, heaven forbid something happened and none of these people could show up to work. Like Starbucks could find replacement baristas and train them very easily. So these guys aren't as special as they think they are.
Every day, from early opens to late closings, we keep Starbucks stores operating. We are the ones who foster connections with customers and keep them coming back. But time and time again, you are ignoring our demands and making our jobs harder. Your priorities are all wrong. While you spend money on celebrity appearances at posh manager conferences in Las Vegas, many of us are struggling to pay rent. And while you're adding complicated new frappuccinos to the menu, we're fighting through understaffing shifts that make it impossible to get our drinks out within your newly declared 4-minute rule. We deserve better. Starbucks promised to finalize contracts with our union in 2024. You failed to do so because you refuse to address our concerns about staffing and take-home pay. Now you promise to get customers back with this Back to Starbucks program. To turn the company around, please hear us when we say that unless you listen to baristas about issues we're facing in our short-staffed stores and take seriously our proposals for fixing them, you will fail. Starbucks won't thrive until we do. The path that leads back to Starbucks begins with finalizing a fair union contract with the staffing, hours, taking home pay, and all the job protections. We need to do our job. That's why over 600 Starbucks union stores and baristas demand that you return to good faith bargaining to settle a fair contract. Let's get this contract now!
All right, so many thoughts here. One, I empathize and I understand the frustration. I've been a barista, including at Starbucks, and I have been a barista at very busy locations where you literally end a 7-hour shift and you feel like you've been hit by a truck because it's just nonstop, constant work. You don't even have a moment to go to the bathroom, right? And I get it. It's really stressful. A few things here. One, this isn't the only Starbucks in Anaheim, California. Any of these individuals, if they are frustrated, especially being that they're located in downtown Disney, which is a heavy tourist destination, if they're frustrated or tired, they can transfer out to a different store. There are plenty of other employers in that area. If they want to work somewhere else in the service industry in downtown Disney or at a completely different industry altogether, they're more than welcome to do that. I think the difference between, the past and the present is that in the past, there really weren't a lot of protections in place. So you could, businesses did have 10-year-olds working in dangerous factories. You had the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire where doors were locked and women were trapped inside and perished because of it. So there was, in the past and in history, there was a reason and a purpose for regulating industry and establishing unions and all that good stuff. But when it comes to service work, a lot of this is by choice. A lot of these people are choosing to work there, and there's very good reason why they are choosing to work there, which I'll get to in a minute. But just to give you some context, because I don't think a lot of people know what's happening with Starbucks. So there was a union that formed, I believe it was in 2021 in Buffalo, New York. So this entirely new Starbucks workers union. So it's not like an AFL-CIO or like an existing like food service workers union. It's a whole new union specific to Starbucks. And they don't really have a list of their claims. There's no like itemization of what they actually want fixed or their demands are. So if you're in more of the know of this than I am, like share links to what they're actually demanding, because it seems very vague to me. But they're talking about some persistent problems. So short staffing, unpredictable scheduling, low wages, harassment, and more. So again, I can empathize with short staffing to some extent, or perceptions of short staffing, especially when you're in a really busy area or a busy part of the day. You can get really overwhelmed. And Starbucks, honestly, is starting to behave more like a fast food place than it is like a coffee shop. So the fact that, a lot of these people have to manage drive-throughs, they have that 4-minute time window to complete orders. Like you have all these like computer screens buzzing at you, and you're being scored based on how quickly you get drinks out. And a lot of the drinks are complicated. I'll give them that. Like I remember making frappuccinos, and it was a pain. Like there was, I remember I worked at the DuPont Circle one in Washington, D.C. And I remember a gaggle of like Mormon teenagers came at, like an hour or two before closing. And if you know anything about Mormons, they don't drink coffee. So they were all ordering frappuccinos, and it was just such a pain to make like 20 frappuccinos right when we were closing. So I empathize, I understand, but you kind of signed up for this work. Okay, short staffing, unpredictable scheduling. This has been an issue since I was a barista. So this is an article from back in 2014. The New York Times had originally reported about it. But there's this big scandal. I was employed at Starbucks during this time. There was a big scandal with clopening. So people were being scheduled to close and then open. And so back in 2014, they said a barista rebellion was percolating at Starbucks. Workers were unsatisfied with work scheduling policies, even though the company announced changes. And so they were still doing clopins. And this isn't uncommon. This is, unfortunately happens in a lot of industries. But this has been a problem for a decade now. Okay, this is in the public domain. Anyone can find this information. It is publicly available. So if you are working at Starbucks and you are complaining about unpredictable scheduling, that is how the company has functioned. That's how most companies function, honestly. And frankly, that's why a lot of people have turned to gig work. And this was something I discovered when I went through the whole process myself of applying for, fast food service work. I got a job at Waffle House and I was working there. And this was one of the problems I encountered. It's like, I remember I applied to a Wendy's because I was just, I was going through the process and I was curious. And they only wanted someone who could work like the breakfast schedule. And it was just, it was insane to me because Wendy's isn't known for breakfast. So it's like you have this company that's adding on an extra service that isn't essential to the business's operations. Then they're complaining about a worker shortage because no one wants to work that shift. And then there's no real flexibility, right? So like you have to work these fixed shifts. They're not always conducive to like your individual schedule. So that's why a lot of service workers have turned to gig work because it's more flexible. You can turn on DoorDash and do DoorDash whenever you want. You can turn on Lyft and Uber and you can pick, which hours you want to work. And they're not necessarily, better per se, but there's a little bit more flexibility. So, if you have an option between working a fixed 7-hour shift at Starbucks or wherever, and you don't have any say over, when you're scheduled, whether you clopen or whatever, or turning on an app and doing the app and your pay is kind of comparable, a lot of people are turning to the app. So that's why there's a perception of a labor shortage, because workers are choosing flexibility over these fixed schedules. So it's getting harder to get workers in the door. So then they complain about low wages, which is insane. So I actually pulled up a job opening for the downtown Disney location, and their starting hourly pay range is $20.25 to $22.99 per hour. I'm assuming this does not include tips. When I worked at Starbucks, you weren't prompted to pay a tip within the payment processor. It was always cash, and it was add-on. I think, so I worked at Starbucks 2014. I think I made like $1 an hour extra in tips. And so obviously tipping culture is out of control. Starbucks now does have the option to add a tip after your order. So I'm assuming these people make probably at least $3 to $5 an hour with tips in addition to this, if not more. When I was a barista at a busy coffee shop in Wyoming, and I was working in Jackson, and during the peak tourist season in the summer, it was nuts. I was taking home $30 to $35 an hour with tips. So I get rents are high. I get the cost of living is high. But there's a ceiling to how much you can earn in a service job before it starts being problematic. And just to give you a comparison, I like to make this comparison. Preschool teacher, right? A Starbucks barista working at this location makes more than your typical preschool teacher in Anaheim, California. So the average preschool teacher makes $18 per hour. The top earners are making $24 an hour, right? And so a preschool teacher usually has to have experience. There's usually licensing required with that, especially if you're working with younger children, early education, that kind of stuff. And they're making less. They're making less than a Starbucks barista who is literally pushing buttons. Starbucks has gotten to the point where you're not even crafting coffee anymore. You're just following recipes. Like the cups are marked, right? The cups are marked to tell you how much to put in. You're guided. There's a guide for everything. All the scoops are pre-portioned, so you're just putting one scoop in. You're not weighing. You're not measuring. If you go to boutique coffee shops, a lot of times they're going to weigh things out by the gram. If you're doing pour-overs and that kind of stuff, there's a lot more skill involved. And even then, it's not even real skill in my opinion. But compared to you're comparing it at Starbucks to a craft coffee shop like Starbucks, you're just pressing buttons. You're literally pressing buttons, putting stuff in the oven chef, microwave thing. You're not providing a real experience. You're basically glorified fast food. That's what it is. So these people are complaining about staffing, the scheduling, which has been in the public domain for a decade now, low wages, which really aren't that low if you compare it to, other types of jobs, and harassment, which I think is subjective. If you look at the types of people who are working at Starbucks, they're kind of fragile. I mean, this dude who was giving this speech, I don't know if you can see it here. Yeah, see, like he's shaking. Like he's clearly not confident in himself. So the types of people who work in these jobs are kind of fragile to begin with. So harassment is subjective. So I don't know what they're fighting for. I don't know what they're trying to get out of this. But in case you are unaware of how epic an employer Starbucks is, let me walk you through some of their benefits, because I don't think these partners, these baristas, fully grasp what they're getting. So Starbucks has health benefits. They have a stock program. And when I was a partner at Starbucks, I got stock. I don't remember what happened to it. And I think part of the problem with this is a lot of people who are working at Starbucks are financially illiterate, so they don't even know how to benefit from the stocks. But there is a stock share. Like the company shares its profits with its employees. You just have to register to earn stock and put money in an investment account. They offer free education. There's a lot of family support, and then there's other company perks. Let's dive in. So they give you medical, dental, and vision. I think it varies, but as someone who has been I'm self-employed, work for myself. I've dabbled with the exchange. It got to the point where the exchange was too expensive. I was priced out of the exchange. So now I use a health share. So I don't even have real health insurance per se. I pay everything out of pocket. And then if I have an emergency, I have a $1,000 out of pocket deductible if I go to the ER, and then the rest is covered by a health share. In theory, it's supposed to work. So, I hope it does. But, they offer health benefits, which includes comprehensive gender affirming care. So, what more can you ask for if you're, a Starbucks employee? You get life insurance, which, you're automatically covered for $10,000. That's pretty good. Like, a lot of people don't have life insurance. I don't have life insurance. Disability, which I think is totally underrated. You have short-term disability, so replaces 70% up to the cap of your average weekly earnings for up to 26 weeks. Most hourly workers don't get any of this, by the way. Most, your average McDonald's employee or Walmart worker, they're not getting any of this. So right off the bat, like, I know people who have worked at Starbucks just for the health benefits because they're so good. Compared to what other benefits you can get in the market. So like I said, they have the bean stock. So you get the opportunity to buy stock. So they have restricted stock units that you're eligible for. There's a 2-year vesting period. But if you stay employed for at least a year, you'll get half of your bean stock. So yeah, I mean, there's an incentive for you to keep working. There's the Future Roast 401k. So you can save. So there's an opportunity to save. Eligible partners may contribute 1 to 75% of their pay. I don't know. Starbucks will match 100% of your first 5% of eligible pay. Okay. I don't know of a single other hourly retail place that has any sort of 401k match. So, I mean, that's pretty good. Okay, education. So there is the Starbucks College Achievement Plan with Arizona State University. So in case you wanted to know, you can go to Arizona State University online for free. You can get a college degree for free as long as you work at Starbucks. So you'll pay for the books and supplies. They'll pay the cost of tuition. I was looking at ASU's website, and for this academic year online, their tuition is $17,000. So assuming you pay everything out of pocket, the value of this online degree is about $69,000. So, I personally think Gen Z should drop out of college. There's no value in college. But if you were working at Starbucks and you could get Starbucks to pay for you to go to college, then I think it'd be worth it. This is a fantastic deal, especially if you don't know what you want to do with your life. You can get some generic degree, check the box, and it's fully paid for. Like, again, I don't know a single other company that offers that kind of benefit to their employees. Like that's insane. Yeah, okay. So paid paternal leave, okay? Paid time off. All benefits eligible parents will receive up to 12 weeks of leave paid at 100% of the partner's average pay. Birth parents, you receive an additional 6 weeks of leave for child labor. You have to be an benefits eligible partner. So I don't know what that means. Let's dive in. Oh, you get all this good stuff. Okay. Yeah, okay. So part-time. Okay. So to become a benefits eligible partner, if you're part-time, you have to receive at least 240 hours over 3 months. Establish initial benefits eligibility the first day of the second month after receiving at least 240 total hours over 3 consecutive months. Yeah, so you just have to work like a period of time, and then you receive benefits. You just have to work 240 hours, it looks like, over a 3-month period of time. It's not terrible. So yeah, you get paid leave. Vacation. Do they get vacation? Okay. Completed time of hire. Okay. You get some holidays off. That's pretty cool. There's a lot of places that don't give holidays. Oh, jury duty will pay you for scheduled work days you miss because of jury duty. That's pretty cool. Some places will fire you if you miss because of jury duty. Looks like you can accrue vacation. So that's pretty cool. Again, like there's like a probationary period. So that's the case with everything. Like the first 90 days is when you can start, getting your benefits and accruing vacation, all that kind of stuff. But Starbucks offers other perks that I think are worth calling attention to. So you get free food, you get free coffee and food. I'll say when I worked at Starbucks in 2014, I had just moved to Washington, D.C. I was making $9 an hour working at Starbucks nights and weekends, and I was a full-time intern making $0 an hour. So that tells you where I was at. My rent at the time, I was splitting an apartment with a friend from college, and I was paying, I think, like $7.50. And then I was commuting in from the very end of the yellow line in Alexandria, Virginia. So, between rent and my metro fees, I was not even breaking even at the end of the month. Like, the first couple months in DC were really rough. And so our manager would let us take home any food that didn't go bad. So if we were like going through the fridge and pulling stuff that was expired, we could keep it or throw it away. And so I would keep, those, like, they have like bento boxes with cheese and crackers and fruit and stuff. I would keep those, and that's literally probably what I ate for the first 2 months I lived in DC because I could. But yeah, you get free food and beverages, and then there's a weekly markout discount, so you get a pound of coffee beans per week. So if you drink a lot of coffee, that's a really good deal. Like, not gonna lie, that's a pretty good deal. Okay, there's some other perks here too that are worth calling attention to. Commuter benefits. Usually that's you deduct a part of your pay and put it on whatever, like, so the WMATA Metro card in DC or whatever, wherever you live in, and the public infrastructure, public transportation infrastructure. You can just divert a portion of your pay pre-tax usually to that. And so it's a way to also save on taxes as well. I love this one. So there's a fitness and activities perk. So if you run, walk, cycle, do recreational sports leagues, all U.S. partners are eligible for up to $240 per plan year. As I run marathons, and I can tell you, they're not cheap. They're not cheap at all. I think the big ones probably $300. Some even more. But if you're running a big race, like a big race, you have airfare, local transportation while you're there, hotel, and then the race fees. It's easily, and food and stuff too. It's easily $1,000 for a marathon weekend. Not to mention like all the stuff ahead of time with training and new shoes and all that good stuff. So just to have like even $240 a year to put towards a race fee, that's amazing. That's like 2 half marathons. I would love that. That's great. Maybe I should go work for Starbucks. But all this to say is, this is available. These partner benefits, all of this is available to all the workers at Starbucks, all the baristas. You just have to put in your time. You have to work hard, and you're eligible for all of this stuff. Not to mention what is it here? $20 an hour to work at the one in Anaheim. So I get rent is expensive. I get the cost of living is expensive. Starbucks has one of the most generous benefits packages for part-time employees. That's the important caveat. You can be eligible to receive all these benefits as a part-time employee. You don't have to be full-time. Most places, in order to be eligible for benefits, you have to work full-time. And because companies don't want to pay out the benefits, they're only going to schedule you for like 30 to 35 hours a week. So you technically don't qualify for full-time. This is notorious. Companies have done this for decades now, just to be able to, skirt around paying people benefits. And so I don't know what these people are complaining about. I don't know what the struggle is. This is the epitome of privilege. I've noticed this too. You see all of these Starbucks baristas, and they're all the woke types. They're all white. If you didn't pick up on that, and you can look at other baristas too. I don't know if this one. Okay, mostly white in this one. Mostly white in this one. But they it's the archetype, the woke archetype. They have the face piercings, and they're wearing masks, and LGBT stuff. Yeah, here you go. 1, 2, 3 masks. So there's like a archetype of who these people are, and they just want more and more and more and more, and they don't realize how good they have it. These people are making more and benefiting more than your average preschool teacher in the country, which I think is one of the most important jobs. Like, raising the next generation is fundamentally important, and we have preschool teachers and daycare workers all across the country who don't even get nearly this much. Actually, they probably get screamed at all day, and they have to deal with angry, grumpy, toddlers. So Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So why have they tried to find a better job? Again, working at Starbucks is a choice, and in many cases, a privilege. You're not entitled to anything. You can go find a different job. Let me see what else. If there's anything interesting in here. Yeah, it's a minimum wage job in food service. You could fire them. Continue. Yeah. Who even goes to Starbucks? I mean, it's true. Like I stopped going to Starbucks during COVID when they closed all of their indoor spaces because I work from coffee shops a lot, and so it like got hard to work from Starbucks because they weren't allowing people to work there. And then they started, like, if you've noticed, a lot of new ones have popped up. They're like fast food. So mentally, I think maybe a decade ago when I was, when I was working there, and when I was in college and stuff, Starbucks was cool because it hadn't quite become the fast food, quick service, like drive-through place that it is now. But all the new ones they've opened up, they seem to be next to, Wendy's and KFC and McDonald's. So in my mind, I've started to equate Starbucks with fast food. And then, of course, you look at their menu items, right? Like everything on their menu is just full of sugar. You're not even getting coffee anymore. And the pumpkin spice lattes aren't even, there's no pumpkin in them. So I don't even know what, I don't even know like why people go to Starbucks. Yeah, I mean, yeah, to demand more. So everyone assumes that you're entitled to something from your employer and you're not. Like the whole game is how can companies get more profit? That's the game. Whether you like it or not, that's how the world works. And so one of the ways and the best way that historically employers have done that is by squeezing workers. And so how workers can combat that, well, you can unionize. That hasn't really turned out very well. Companies don't like unions and they'll find ways to get around unions, and have been. A lot of deindustrialization over the last 40, 50 years has been in part a result of union efforts. You don't have to deal with the union when you ship factory production to China and Vietnam and Mexico. So that's exactly what companies have been doing, for better or for worse. And so I don't know that demanding more from these companies is the best solution. I think voting with your feet and voting with your wallet. You are the consumer, you send the demand. And if we're talking about the labor market, like you as a laborer are selling and renting your time. So if you are offering your time to a company that you fundamentally disagree with, like that's on you. So you need to choose a better employer. So maybe that's taking advantage of the ASU program and getting a degree to get a better job. Maybe it's looking for a different employer. I don't think demanding more from the company is going to solve the problem because the company is not inclined to give you more money just for showing up to do your job. Again, there's limits to how much companies can pay for certain types of jobs. Okay, there's no more real good comments here, but yeah, this is the latest in the Starbucks union drama. I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are on this. If you've gone to Starbucks lately, or if you partake in Starbucks at all, and the company is trying to do a turnaround. The current CEO, Brian Nickel, he used to be at Chipotle, so he's well known for turning around Chipotle. So I think people are curious to see what he's going to do with Starbucks. But I would love, like, as just people who out and about and go to places like this, if your thoughts on Starbucks, and do you feel like this person and the people who provide the experience that they claim is so valuable, like, do you think it actually is as valuable as what this gentleman is proclaiming in this video? And how do you value service? I think we've lost that part of the plot. Everyone just expects to be paid more and tipped more, and there's no real conversation about what actually value is. So I'd love your take on this, what you think, and if seeing stuff like this makes you not want to go to Starbucks, because I know for me it definitely I'm just like, yeah, I'm good. Cool. All right. Well, I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.